Dell office. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so let's talk today about our virtualization and cloud journey, right? And I'm not going to flip 3 slides before I start. I'll start with the first one. Okay, so a lot of you are probably thinking, well, I've heard the terminology before, virtualization and cloud, wow, what's new? But we've got some pieces to announce today, some specific services in our virtualization and cloud journey, and we'll explain how they meet the customer's needs at any point throughout that journey. We're also going to introduce a partnership we have developed with Serba, and I've got with me today Chuck from Serba, and Sid. Say hello, Sid.
Hello.
So Serba is the analytical brain behind the services that we've developed. So let me take you through this. Sid, would you like to
Sure.
cover the market problems here?
Absolutely. Good morning. How are you guys doing? Or is it good afternoon? How many of you are on the cloud journey today? Let's get a raise of hands. Cloud or virtualization or both? Okay, I bet the ride has been very bumpy, hasn't it? Okay, so as Dell, we're going to solve that for you today, all right? So let's get into this. So what are some of the market problems that customers are facing today? First and foremost, customers don't know anything about cloud. They hear the buzzword, cloud, let's go to cloud. But they don't have the experience, the business or technical acumen to resolve this, right? So that's the problem we're all dealing with today, right? Both Dell as a service provider, but also the customers today as you run your IT business, right? And the complexity is tremendous, right? With this virtualization, you go virtualization first, then move to cloud, you go cloud first, and then come back to virtualization. What are the applications, what are the workloads you want to move towards cloud? I mean, it's very, very complex, right? And then putting it all together, who helps you? You can't do it yourself. Okay, if you're a big company, maybe you can, but you need a partner like Dell to help you get there, right? That's where the integration piece comes in. And at the end of the day, IT managers, CIOs, and CTOs are looking to do this at a very cost-effective manner. CapEx, OpEx, what have you. So it's very important that as you move towards the journey to the cloud, you do it in a very efficient manner. And at the end of the day, to me, anyway, cloud is nothing but outsourcing. We heard about outsourcing in the legacy days, where people would outsource their business to a service provider or a managed hosted service provider. But to me, cloud is a reformation of that, right? So think about it that way. And at the end of the day, you've got to worry about things like security, multi-tenancy, you've got to worry about compliance, you've got to worry about migration, strategy, all of that, right? So that's where we as Dell can help you. So as you sit through this presentation and understand some of the offerings we're putting together, hopefully that'll resonate with you guys, and turn to Dell for your IT needs as you move towards the cloud. That'll turn it back to Roger.
Okay, thank you, Sid. All right, I'm going to stand up here because I feel like I'm going to fall over down there. Right, so let me tell you a little bit about the point of view. So, point of view is the people, processes, and technology. So, we will work with our customers to understand where their current skill sets are. A couple of years ago, I'm now a product manager, but a couple of years ago I was a consultant in the field, and I realized that a couple of years ago that customers didn't really have a lot of virtualization skills, so they could really leverage consulting. But today, the level of consulting you need to have in order to do the job is going to be a little higher. So you're going to be a little bit more skilled, understanding, cloud is all about all the pieces of a converged infrastructure. You can't just know your own little silo anymore, you've got to understand all the different components. So we'll tell you a little bit about the services we've developed and the training roadmap that we put together in order to enable our consultants to bring you to the end of that journey. Optimizing processes is all about working with your customer to realign the processes around the technology, around the people, the right technology, right? So that's why Serba are here today, okay? So Serba's booth is actually up this way somewhere. They have a very cool big touch screen that you can play around with their technology. So urge you all to go and see them. And coupled with the technology and the processes, we have the consultants. So we have thousands of consultants around the world, and we're enabling them in the technology. We develop new services, and we're bringing them together to bring you a leading class service. So here's the journey. You've all heard of the piece on the left-hand side before. Okay, it's old news. Core virtualization, doing a virtualization assessment. Your customer needs to identify some cost efficiencies. Okay, you've all heard it, yeah? Now, the thing is that 50% of the world's workloads are virtualized. So that means that 50% are still to be virtualized. That's my Scottish mathematics coming out there. So we realised that you can't just go online, download yourself a free assessment, get a free report. Well, maybe you can do that, but the difference really is in the detail. Okay, the detail is we are providing consultant-led, very deep analytical assessments using policy, so business-driven policy. Moving into the middle of the operations side. Has everyone heard of the VMware Health Check Analyzer? Anybody heard of it? Hands up. Interact with me here. So we've been using that for years, right? We've been using the Health Check Analyzer for years. We've been doing the red, amber, green status. You drop the tool in, you run it for an hour or two. You get all the detail on whether the virtual switches are configured correctly. You've got enough NICs against your switches, etc. Right? And then you run your red, amber, green status against the infrastructure. Okay? That's a little bit of old news as well. The difference that we're bringing today is actually the performance health check. Okay? So with the performance health check, what we're actually doing is identifying risk and also identifying inefficiencies in the infrastructure. Okay? I'm going to show you a very cool dashboard in a minute. So I'll stop talking in a second and hand you over to Chuck, who's going to actually drive you through the dashboard. Right? Moving on into self-service and orchestration. Again, customers want to achieve even higher cost savings, increase their own customer satisfaction. Okay, so actually allowing the user to request their own workload. We'll talk a bit about how Serba can actually integrate into your automated provisioning. Okay, so Serba will provide actions, and you'll see the console in a second here, that the actions you can actually integrate into an orchestration engine and actually have that orchestration engine carry out those actions. Right, the actions are things like, this workload doesn't have enough CPU assigned to it, or doesn't have enough memory assigned to it, something like that. And then we'll talk about the cloud readiness assessment, cloud services. Okay, so diving into the cloud readiness assessment is actually a way of us, you could say, allowing us to help the customer understand what choices they need to make in cloud. Okay, but the private cloud design and implementation is a way of us actually delivering the customer an environment that actually works and is configured. Okay. So, no fluff. The virtualization readiness assessment. So, how many people have actually conducted an assessment or have had an assessment done in their environment? How many people? Hands up here. Yeah, conducted virtualization assessments. Again, kind of old news, right? It's a great way of identifying what candidates are right for virtualization. We use a tiering mechanism based on performance, right? So we have tier 1, 2, 3, 4. What are the guys that are really picking the teeth out of the performance? Now, the difference with our analytical engine with Serba is actually the policies, right? And Chuck's going to take you through the policies in a second. That's really the differentiation here, right? We're not talking about a free download tool, you get an automated report, and it tells you the performance of your environment. You can do that manually on your own just by looking in, perfmon and gathering some data, right? It's all about what you do with the data, the business-driven policies. So it's typically 30-day analysis, non-intrusive tool. Well, you can do both actually. You can deploy an agent, or you can do non-intrusive. obviously most of our customers like to do the non-intrusive way. And we provide a detailed return on investment analysis, identify the total cost of ownership, and really find out when the customer is going to have the return, right? So the virtualization and health check services, I've covered those a little bit actually in the infrastructure and the performance. So those are the two methods we use, infrastructure and performance health check, okay? So capturing your current state, comparing it to our best practices. So we have developed over the year global references, global IP from all of our consultants that say, this is VMware's best practice, this is the experience of all the consultants we have in the field, this is what they've identified, we mash that all together, and effectively we come up with the automated red, amber, green that VMware gives you, but also obviously the consultant-driven experience there. Again, there's policy-driven components within the health check, and we're identifying within that the over-allocated virtual machines, under-provisioned VMs, for example, and inadequate capacity in the environment in total. Okay. Again, the health check from a performance point of view is a 30-day analysis. Okay, so you deploy the tool in your environment, it connects to vCenter, maintains all the performance collectors from vCenter itself. The infrastructure health check again connects to vCenter, does the same thing. Okay, so Sid's going to tell you a little bit about the cloud services here. Sid and I kind of meet in the middle, so I deal with all the virtualization services, and Sid develops all the cloud services, so kind of meet in the middle.
Okay.
So he's a little smaller than I am.
Thank you, Roger. Okay, time to get serious, take my jacket off, because this is cloud now, guys, okay? This wimpy virtualization stuff, alright? Okay, so now, what are we doing in cloud? We are helping you assess your IT environment to get to cloud. What does it entail? A readiness assessment, right? This is not just understanding your technical geeky bits and bytes. This is understanding your business operations model, your business transformation model, your budgets that you've allocated to this, your resources that you've allocated to this. This is not a one-way monologue. You've got to be part of this journey. We want you to be involved in this, okay? So what we do is we come into your environment with high-profile Dell consultants. These are rock star resumes, right? We come there and we talk to you. We set up a session. We understand your business problems. And we gather all the information that's necessary to move to the journey to the cloud, right? And then we devise a strategy on how you get there, which means understanding your infrastructure needs, what is the current state as is, what you want to go to be, understanding your applications and workloads, the nuances of all of that, and then determining whether you want to go to private cloud, public cloud, or hybrid cloud. It's not a one strategy, it's a multi-strategy, multi-pronged approach, right? And everything may not apply to your environment, will help you get there, right? And then, when you start looking at the applications and workloads, which ones migrate to public? Does the application migrate to public and the data sits in your private environment? What happens then? You need application integration. What happens when you move apps to a public cloud environment? There are worries about security. So SecureWorks comes in. We bought SecureWorks last year. Big deal. Okay, so we can leverage that. We bought Boomi last year. Big deal. Application integration. We got managed hosted private cloud services. We've got public cloud services. So all of that, it's a complete ecosystem. We're not a one-trick pony, guys. It's serious stuff, right? We make it happen for you. At the end of the day, how do we do this? We have a strong analytics engine underneath our strategy. We got the consultants that are rock stars. We got the analytics underneath with Cerberus partnership. That's where we bring the complete package for you. And that's what makes it all happen. So that's the cloud readiness assessment. So do not go to the cloud until you determine where to go. Because if you do that, you're going to stumble and fail. Guaranteed. Next slide. Okay, the other service that we offer is the Build a Cloud offer. Now this is essentially for those customers that are a little bit more savvy, right? They know what cloud is, they know what virtualization is, They've already deployed VMware technology. They're using vCloud Director as the underlying orchestration and management framework, right? But they need help. They don't know where to start. The 60% are more virtualized, and they don't know which apps to migrate, how to get there. What are some of the VMs that they need to move to cloud? What are the cloud container models? What are the cloud catalogs? All of that, right? So we offer build a cloud as a service. We come in there, work with you, understand your environment. Of course, here we're not prescribing a solution. 9 times out of 10, you've already decided which solution to go to, which is the private cloud using vCloud Director technology, and will help you get there. So those are 2 offers we have on deck for our cloud consulting portfolio. With that, I'll hand it over back to Roger.
I think it goes to Sid. Thanks, Sid.
Chuck.
Thanks. Sid's got a great accent, but the Scottish always wins. It's like Braveheart does virtualization. So I'm going to talk for a moment about Serba, the analytics engine that powers the services that Sid and Roger were just talking about. Serba is a predictive analytics engine. It's all about deriving answers as to what should happen within virtual and cloud infrastructure. The guys mentioned policy. All of the answers that Serba derives are policy driven. Oops, wrong button. Serba can be applied to the transformational question. So I've got a bunch of physical or virtual workloads and I want to transform them to some future state. It can be applied to the control and management question, again based on policy, where workloads should live and how you want to manage them. And then at some point when you're in the future, when you're comfortable about automation and beginning to pass those answers to other systems like orchestrators, you're able to do that. Now we talked a lot about policy today, and the new game in cloud and virtualization is to not treat everything the same way. Just about every organization today is virtualizing successfully, but treating everything the same way. What do we mean by that? We mean you need to manage in a fit-for-purpose fashion. If you look at a cost curve with density along the bottom and cost and risk on the left, the more stuff you put on a server, the lower the cost of managing that environment. You cannot, though, help but introduce a bit of risk. The more densely you run infrastructure, the more you introduce risk. If you treat all workloads the same way, you will not take advantage of things like overcommit and the ability to put lots of stuff on individual hosts, to take advantage of powerful Dell servers and get that density. So the analytics and the policies are all about allowing you to turn the dials and understand that dev test workload should be treated completely differently than a production workload. And if you do that, you'll get the optimal cloud and virtualization results. If you abstract it into a service tier, in the case of, let's say, cloud, gold, silver, bronze, platinum, etc., you can start to represent that to your customers and they can make better choices, your internal customers, as to where those workloads are going to go. So, if you think about policy for a minute, why can't humans do this? Why do you need an analytics engine? If you look at availability, let's say, across critical production through to dev test, or perhaps compliance rules, or the actual density that you want to run, in aggregate, I went too quickly there, in aggregate, this becomes a very complex thing. If you don't define the policy and place the workloads appropriately, you can't help but bring this sophistication. Now, if you take an analytics engine and the policies, what your answer for a dev test workload is, or production critical, and a unique visualization, you get the server control console. Now this looks busy for a minute, but I'm going to orient you quickly. This is the embodiment of everything that's going on in your environment, the policies, the way you want to manage, and the state of the environment. So this top row is kind of broken up in this line. These dots are the clusters. These dots, color matched, are the physical hosts in those clusters. And these are the VMs, color matched. This VM here, in the green zone, is within the safe zone, because this side depicts risk, under provision. This side depicts waste, over provision. So we've observed all the environment, we've understood the policies. This becomes your goalposts for effectively managing this environment. This VM may be happy, it's a dev test, it's running at 95% of its allocation. This may be a production critical workload, getting to 50% of its allocation. The policies dictate what's healthy and what isn't. So you can very quickly see what's happening in the environment. If I click on a VM, I can see that I've got active memory, CPU utilization, and IOPS that are offending my policies. That's why that dot is in its red state. If I open the entire console here, I can see everything that's required in order to remediate and move the dots to the middle. It's a simple game of herding the dots into the middle into this green zone. If you do that, you're policy compliant and your stuff is performing. That's what the control console does. These actions can be fed out to vSphere or to an orchestrator or to a human if you're conservative and you don't want automated stuff to happen. Now, this button here allows us to simulate predictively what this environment will look like if we did all those actions. You saw those actions? This is what this environment would look like if we were to remediate and take all the recommendations. So this environment is now ready to receive more workloads. If you go back here, this is scary. This is the state that you don't want to be dropping more stuff into. The reality is the analytics can figure out how to make it like this and make room for more. So let's do a VRA. Roger was talking about the P2V, the analytics. Here we've done an analysis taking 85 workloads. We've done all the combinations and permutations with the policies, and we say we can take it down to 5 servers. That's a safe, policy-compliant answer, powering a Dell services team and giving you these answers. Now I'm going to come back to this in a minute because we're going to put those into that environment. Here I'm taking the CPU utilization from 5% to 24%, and the power consumption is going from power hungry to a very nice state. So we probably like that opportunity to go and do that. So park that for a minute. What if we introduce a cloud catalog into it? So instead of trying to put more workloads onto fewer hosts, we're putting them into cloud containers. We've asked the software to take an existing bunch of physical workloads and analyze them against a catalog. It's kicked out 10 of these 79 workloads. Here it's telling us what the risks were, why they won't fit in the catalog. Here it's giving us, in this case in the catalog, it was defined as smalls, mediums, and larges. It's giving us how many of those we need. And then over here it's giving us the software stack and the OSs that are required in those cloud instances. So it's a very complete answer in the form of the cloud readiness assessment that Sid was talking about. Now, if we go back to this environment, and this is kind of the last slide, this environment's ready to receive workloads. If you complete the life cycle, this little pane here, if we open it, that is the reservation system, the hotels.com of marrying workload, guests, and capacity. And you'll notice we've also dragged this timeline. Today it's in the dividing line, you can't see it, 30 days into the future. Those transformations are now showing up here as bookings, and they're holding capacity in this environment. So these dots are still in the middle with that forecasted arrival of those new guests. We don't have to build a new hotel, we can drop them here. So we see this as, and Dell sees this as, the life cycle of the workload as it relates to not only establishing the policies and the way you're going to put the stuff in there, but the transformation into those environments as well, into a control state.
Okay, so just to recap this slide, I really like this slide, so I'm going to quickly recap it. P2V analysis on the left-hand side here, so this is your analyzing through the assessment your physical servers, and you're booking them in on the left-hand side, those that are suitable for your virtual environment. This is analyzing your virtual environment through vCenter, and of course the VMs, hosts, etc. in the middle are those that are correct within their capacity, within the boundaries that we've set. On the right-hand side, that is actually the outbound VMs, so those that you plan to be decommissioned. And on the top right-hand side here, it says display with recommendations applied. What this actually means is that all the recommendations you saw before about, move this VM from here to here, or increase this VM CPU, decrease the memory, etc. You can actually control the console, apply the recommendations, and work out what's going to happen in 30 to 60 to 90 days. When am I going to actually need to buy, another host, for example? What happens if I fall over? What happens if I leave it as is, right, and don't apply the recommendations? So, I may need to buy 2 hosts, for example, if I don't do the recommendations. I think what's important to state about this is that, yes, you know, this is a great tool from a transformation perspective. So if you're doing a large-scale transformation, P2V analysis, you're bringing everything in and out. But from a workload lifecycle management perspective, it's a great tool to continuously optimize your infrastructure. So leave in place and continually optimize that infrastructure. Okay, so thank you for everybody's time. Thank you for popping by the booth. We've probably covered,